So I was at my cousin's bar mitzvah in New York.
No way.
And I was 7 years old, and I turned to my mother, and I say, Ma, can I sing with the band? And she said, I don't know, can you sing? And I said, yeah, I can sing.
What does she know from singing?
What does she know from singing? Can she sing? I don't know. This is my daughter. She wants to do something. So I had to audition for the band. I was 7-year-old. I remember they were eating, and I was singing. Dun, 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 this is where it gets Jewy Louie to the heights of heights. Barbra Streisand, The Way We Were. So I sang it to them, and they're like, pretty good, pretty good. And forevermore, I had to sing at everybody's bar mitzvah.
I feel like when we met, we were both sort of dreaming of a different way of doing music. And in my case, I just didn't know what it was. But the way I was doing music was a little bit unsatisfying. It was like a weird itch I couldn't scratch. And I was a bit like, there has to be a more exciting, fun, social way of doing music.
I wanted, a pure rock band, bass, guitar, drums, singer. Keyboards to me were not a pure rock band and did not belong.
Yeah, and I was coming from the opposite. I was coming from a land of jazz fusion and keyboards and sort of very intellectual, brainy music. And even when I was like 13 or 14, when I started listening to the Smiths, because I thought Morrissey was sort of speaking to me in a very deep spiritual way, my older brother, who I made music with, was like, why are you listening to the Smiths? They can't play their instruments and there's no keyboard player. So we're literally coming from
opposite ends. At that particular moment, the only band that ever asked me to play with them was a band called Spittin' the Susan. And one girl in the band and I became friends. And I said to her, let's start an all-girl band. And she said to me, well, my next door neighbor is really talented and he's got rehearsal space in his basement and I have a crush on this guy and I'd like to invite him also. Just come and jam with us. Like, we can all get together. I was really angry about it because I wanted an all-girl band. So I walked in the room. I don't even think I said hi. I was like...
You didn't say hi, but we got high.
But we got really high. The other participant was Maki. And we just started to, yell things and sing things at each other that were obviously coming from our musical frustration, our sexual frustration. I don't remember, maybe Maki or Gonzo said, let's switch instruments. And I had never, ever touched a keyboard in my life. And then I went on the keyboard and I was like, this is so cool. What is this? Wow, this is fun. And then they said, let's switch again. And then I played drums, which I'd never played. And then I remember the first thing that Gonzo said to me was, hey man, I love your guitar playing. It's like Joey
Santiago.
Joey Santiago. And I was like...
From the Pixies, for those who don't know.
And basically that was my favorite guitarist at the time.
Just because you can play anything doesn't mean you should. And to hear Meryl play like Joey Santiago, one note on the guitar with all the attitude and emotion, really was very eye-opening that I could be part of that finally. It's like, wow, okay, I finally crossed over to the other side where music is a more naturalistic, emotional release. And I was coming from, I had a major label deal and was really struggling with what that meant and the sort of, I felt like there was a fork in the road and I could choose heavy compromise and sort of like, well, this is what I gotta do to be a sort of successful working musician, I guess. And thank God that we had this jam session just in time that I realized it's better to focus on fun first and then success later rather than success first and then have the terrible job of trying to inject fun into something that's not fun.
Just to let it all out and do that first and see what comes after.